I think a lot of people feel like they have like a Jekyll and Hyde or like a Hulk inside of them, that suddenly they're going to do one pillow hit and they're going to like destroy a whole room. And I'm like, no, like actually in reality, if it hasn't yet happened, like if it hasn't burst out with you punching a drywall, or if you haven't ever like flipped out or been aggressive, it most likely would not be there. Like those people who need anger management are the ones that already are expressing those signs. Like it's very rare that if people flip out just suddenly for the first time in 45 years because they did a bit of anger work. No.
My recommendation there is to trust that this emotion is here to inform you, and once you let it in and you almost become whole and you have all emotions online, that then you have all the information that you need, because your emotions will tell you what to do. But when one emotion is not allowed, it's almost like you create this blind spot, this shadow of like, okay, I have access to all these actions. These 3 or 4 actions are available right now to me. But this one that involves anger is not available to me right now. This one I can't do because I don't even see it, because I can't go there. So clarity can only come after allowing all those emotions. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Bypasses podcast with Ashley and me. And today we talked about a very essential topic, which is, are we actually releasing our emotion? Is that actually really helping us and healing us? Or are there other ways? And might this term even be a bit misleading, even though it is a part of the name of both our company and the method that we teach? And we also went into deep of our own processes, into the depth of our own processes, of where Ashley and I had a process together, and how we found more vulnerability and realness in that, and how you can detect the ways you are protecting yourself from the emotions that you are repressing. So how you can become a detective within your own system and find all the sabotage patterns that might be running there, and how that can lead to more wholeness and realness in your life, which is ultimately where we are going. What we are going for is the authenticity. So a very amazing and fun episode. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Bypasses podcast today with me, Jannick, and Ashley. She looks beautiful today, Ash. You really do, with your makeup on, your hair made, ready to go out in Amsterdam nightlife, right?
Yes. Jannick and I were joking because I normally look a bit rough sometimes, which is fine. It's just authentic. But I was like, oh, I'm going to get ready before the podcast today, and then I'm going to a party.
That's, as a German, I have to say that's really efficient. Love the way you think there.
So if you're listening on a Spotify, then you need to go onto YouTube and watch this episode. So
exactly, go to YouTube. I'm telling you, it's worth it. The Spiritual Bypasses podcast on YouTube. Anyways, it's always a good idea to see our faces and really connect on that level too. And also, I obviously understand if you're just the guy or the woman that listens, but I really sometimes like to connect with the faces as well. So highly recommend. And on another note, we have a really interesting topic today. We want to talk again about something that came up in an earlier episode, but now we've had some time to reflect on it, and I've had some time to dive deeper into this topic of the Expand the Box training that not only Ashley did, but also another dear friend of mine who I connected with just recently. And I just think there are so many interesting concepts about this training, and I'd love to talk about them in the terms and in the context of the emotional release training that we are offering with the Emotional Release Academy. Maybe we can come up with some similarities, also some differences in the approaches that we have, and a very a thing that is really present for me right now is this whole topic of the term release. And it's part of the title of our training, of our academy. So it has to be somehow important. Emotional release. And what we talked about, my friend and I, who went to the training, was, is it actually really about releasing emotions all the time? Like, why is the name emotional release? And isn't it sometimes about something else than getting rid of that emotion? Because that could, be what release means for some people. It's like, oh, I have this emotion inside, and if I could only get rid of it, if only someone showed me or went through a process with me so I could get rid of that emotion, then finally I'm not suffering from it anymore. So what's your take on that? Also considering that this is a topic that's currently present for our students that are running the level 1 training right now.
Yeah. Last week we talked about catharsis versus containment, and I also have flashbacks to you and I right at the start of the project of Era, before we had the name. But it's like last winter, you do not want to know how many hours we were brainstorming of like which word to use.
Totally.
Like, is it emotional transformation? Is it emotional healing? Is it even emotions? Is it even release? Like emotional healing, like what word do we use? And in the
Emotional
end,
processing was another one.
yeah, and emotional freedom, EFT,
Mm.
we were really close to landing on that for a while. Because,
Mm.
okay, we're getting free from emotions in a way of like finding freedom inside yourself. So I look back and laugh, because at some point we were like, no, I think the majority of the field of the niche little corner of society that we're reaching, they understand emotional release for what it is. And yeah, maybe in 10, 20 years, we have a different term for it. And yeah, it is misleading.
Mm.
I would say like a huge percentage of people come to sessions, especially beginners who are really new to this, who they know something's up, they know something needs to change. That's why they've come to meet with me. But it's really mind blowing to them when I say like, yeah, emotions are not good, they're not bad. Like really this simple stuff that we drill in every episode here, but that they're not good, they're not bad, they're not something that you need to get rid of. They actually need to be invited in even more. They want to just be witnessed, they want to be danced with, they want to be transformed into something. And I get it, because it's just not the norm in society to talk about uncomfortable emotions. Like we always want to accentuate joy and accentuate pleasure and comfortable feelings, but the uncomfortable ones are like, no, I don't want to sit in this, I don't want to experience it. So yeah, it does lead to then this misunderstanding that people coming to the training or to coming to the sessions think like it's all about getting rid of. It's all about big movement catharsis. My Instagram page is also guilty of this. Like, also, when we worked at emotional release, like the videos, the reels that went viral were the ones that were very impactful. It wasn't the tender, someone just holding someone's head or being present and holding space. Like that doesn't have the wow factor that tends to get people's attention. And then for me, like the reels that went viral, the ones that really hit people are the like intense anger ones or the big sadness ones, because they kind of break through a lot of the noise. So yeah, I totally get it that there's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah, exactly. It's probably has more to do with how Instagram works and how our attention span works, and like what really catches people and then becomes really popular. And I guess that's the thing with every topic. There are some aspects of it that catch the attention, but then the things that really do the work and the reality oftentimes looks very differently. And it's just good to acknowledge both, of being like, wow, it's beautiful that these moments of catharsis, of emotional intensity, that they really touch people that watch it, and that really resonates somehow, because maybe it creates this sense of unshaming of like, oh wow, actually if I look at this really resonates, because this is what I want to do. I just want to scream, like for once I just want to scream my whole soul out. I just want to do that too, and that will like probably also help. But it's not the final solution of the healing work, is to only do that. And like you always say, it's only a small part of a session usually that comes up, and it's only for a couple of seconds or a minute or two or so, that where you go into these high peaks of intensity and then you come back down.
yeah, like they're really these pivotal culmination of energy buildup in a session. Like I have a playlist that's like timed roughly for how my sessions run. And there's really only 2 points of a session where there's like a wave has built and some form of catharsis and expression happens. And depending on who the person is, that looks different. Like I had a client once who didn't cry for 20 years. So for her, being able to shed a couple of tears is a huge catharsis for her. some people who like somebody once broke my table because they had such a big anger release process, but it wasn't chaotic, uncontrolled 20 minutes. It was like 2 really, really solid hits, and they like smashed through the end of one of the parts of the table. It was not like raging explosion and like running around the room, ripping all my pillows in half and kicking the Palo Santo and like smashing the sage. Like, no, like that's not what we're doing in the sessions. That's not what we're encouraging in these catharsis moments. It's actually kind of funny because I just 2 days ago posted how I'm like really fed up with the nuanced. There's a lot of posts and studies around neuroscience saying like anger catharsis is dangerous for the body and that it creates. There's a lot of. It was a really big account that posted this, and I just feel that it's too broad to just list anger as like a total emotion that causes all of this. Like, oh, if you are angry, then your heart gets damaged and your brain is affected. And the trick to this is to sit with it for 30 seconds and to let it pass, and basically just encouraging bypassing. And in reality, what the wording of those posts should be saying is that it's like unhealthy, it's toxic, destructive anger. But to say like to do one pillow yell or to do some squeezing with your hands to release some of that tension, to say that that is damaging of your heart, to be honest, those studies need to do a reflection and seeing of like the repercussions of pushing the energy back down.
Exactly.
Like they're just doing one stage of the study and not looking at what the counter effects are of pushing and taking that 30 seconds and letting that be swallowed back down, letting yourself just wish it away and regulate it away. And yeah, it really annoyed me because I get a lot of people sending these posts to me like, how do you justify your work if this is what the studies are saying? And to be honest, and this might just be my like inner activist, anarchist mind, it's like, who benefits from you pushing down your anger? Like, who benefits from you not having the ability to speak up, to think about things that need to change? Who benefits from you being quiet? Doesn't benefit you as the individual. Like, whoever you want to view as like the power struggles, the hierarchy in our society, like there's actually way more people of the masses than there are versus like the billionaires. Yet if you stay quiet and you just stay obedient and just don't speak up about anything, then yeah, there's a lot in that around like why are they trying to tell you this, to like not let yourself feel anger, because it actually is the catalyst for change. But that would
Exactly.
probably be a whole other
That's
episode.
a whole nother episode. And I get that. And even if you don't want to go there, if you look at the work of Peter Levine or Gabor Mate, if you look at the books they read and the studies they've made, it becomes very clear that things like autoimmune disease and are caused by repressing your emotions and not allowing them out, not processing them. And therefore they're almost like staying inside. Your body keeps the score, and that means that it's almost like eating you from the inside because it doesn't have an outlet. You are not allowing those emotions to be met and to be witnessed and to be expressed. And that's, over time, it's probably the most unhealthy thing that you can do. On like, if you just look at the emotional aspect of your psychology and of your psychological health. So I think this is really important to make that distinction of like, yes, anger is unhealthy if you are constantly angry. And it's not it's not about being constantly angry. It's about being angry when you're angry and not being angry all the rest of the time. So,
exactly. Like, to be honest, anything is unhealthy if you're in that state all the time.
Yeah, if it's frozen. Exactly.
Yeah. There's another book also called The Mind Body Prescription by John Sarno, who is a medical doctor, and through like 30 years of research and with clients and with himself, came to the conclusion that when he helped his clients work through repressed rage and like internalized pressure, which is rage, as Tim says, you're angry, but you didn't even know it. Like this internalized stress, this internalized pressure of perfectionism, things from childhood, that when they were worked on, and he's a medical doctor, and helped with like reflections and journaling, even, that people's symptoms went away. And not just like heart disease symptoms, but like osteoporosis, of chronic conditions with like tension in the muscles, certain areas of the body playing up. It was my first entry point into psychosomatics. And I bought that book when I had tendonitis in my forearms, as I worked in corporate. I must have been like 22. And I didn't understand it, but I still kept the book with me. And then actually about 5 years later, it moved through like 4 apartments with me. I still kept it. And it didn't make sense until then I did the emotional release training. And then I was like, wait a minute, I have a book somewhere in my like cabinets about this. I was like, the answer was with me all this time.
It's all here.
I was like, no, like all the way through my burnout, like for a year and a half, if I just like had opened that book, but I'd really trust in the process of when information is meant to land and when I was finally ready to receive it. So that one's another great recommendation for anger and psychosomatics.
Yes.
But we're taking some detours here.
We're taking some detours. Let's come back to this topic of release. So if you want to approach it from a parts work perspective, there might be a part in you that thinks, oh, if I could only get rid of this anger, then finally I'd be healed or I'd be happy. Or probably if it's one layer more like under the consciousness level, then like Tim says, you don't even know that it's the anger. So you might be sad all the time and go into victim mindset all the time, feel helpless and powerless all the time. And so your default is crying and being sad about all the things that are happening with you in the world, that people do to you. And even though you're sad all the time, you don't have a sadness issue. You actually have an anger issue, so to say. If you want to pathologize this like that, really you don't have any issues. It's just your system finding a very smart way of surviving, because this very emotion of anger used to be very dangerous in your childhood, so you can't go there. Your system can't access it because it's related to the actual physical death of your body. And now a part of you thinks, I need to get rid of this. And this is just another part that's playing a role in that system that tries to avoid that anger. And what actually needs to happen is that you meet this part that is angry inside of you, and you let it speak, and you let it, you go into a process with it. You relate to it. You create a new relationship with it that is not, I need you to go away, I need to release you, and then I'm happy or healed or whole again. But that is more like, hey, you are here for a reason. You have something to say. I'm here to listen to you. What is it? And this is what all our tools that we provide in the training are really about, is being with that emotion and building a new relationship, which is not releasing it. At some point, maybe it leaves because it has given you the message that it is meant to be here for, yes. But if you come with the intention to release it, you are coming from that part. You are probably identified with that part that is scared of the emotion, and you're not really coming from this place of loving presence, or as we call it, heart state, because you want to get rid of it. And getting rid of it is more a consequence of being in a loving state with it, rather than something like a goal that we try to achieve in this work.
Yeah, if you're coming into that process already with the intention to get rid of it, you're already in resistance to it.
Exactly.
Already in judgment, already in shame, already in non-allowance.
Yes.
And then it will just continue.
Exactly. And now this is a very important moment, I think, because now this can create shame again, of like, oh yeah, but I am in resistance and I'm powerless. I feel helpless. I don't know what to do with it. And here there's a main like shift that can happen once you understand that even this resistance is not your enemy, or is not to get rid of. Because that could be the next thing that you go to, is like, okay, now I need to get rid of the resistance. That's what Ashley and Jannick said. No, you even build a relationship with the resistance, and you're like, what are you saying right now? It's like, I can't be angry. Really can't be angry. I don't want to be angry. No. Anger is destructive. Anger is going to hurt the people I love. No. And listen to that resistance. It has a lot of valuable points to say, and you want to be with them too, to be able to understand them, soften them, create space there. And that is in IFS or parts work terms, that is the protector that is not allowing you to go to that anger, which will then free you and release you, because first it wants to be seen as well, and be like, I am important here. Like, I'm not here for fun or to bully you. I'm here because I've learned that my role is essential in your system. You need me, because if you don't have me, if I'm not here to protect you from your anger, terrible things will happen. Trust me. I know it. I've seen it. So I'm here to protect you.
Well, beautifully said.
Yeah, so I think this explains very well why emotional release can be misleading, even though it in the very end it can be a release and it can feel very freeing, but it's not at all about getting rid of anything, but more about alchemizing and finding new ways and perspectives. And there we are again at the title of the training, expanding the box, finding new perspectives and ways of how you can relate with both the
Yeah.
resistance to it and the emotion itself.
Yeah, and the overarching, we're talking about possibility management. And the first lab you have to go to is expand the box, and that's also the same word, like possibilities. It's like, can I
Exactly.
find a new way, a new possibility to relate with this part of myself, and what can that look like? And is that something I've never thought of before? That's also, I think, what a lot of the viral reels of these big releases are. Is like, because it's showing someone a new possibility of like, wow, I didn't even know that was possible to express in that way,
Mm.
didn't even know that that's like okay for a human to do, or that there's some that can be reached when without acting, about without someone being someone in a movie or in a series. So that's also what we do at the retreats. Like, we're there also to provide, basically setting an example of like, this is where you can go to, this is how big you can go, how small you can go.
Yeah, and another thing I'd actually like to talk to you about is new and old context of emotion. I think this really relates to what we just said, because creating new possibilities also means creating new relationships to our emotions. And once I did an anger class, and afterwards someone came to me and was like, yeah, okay, these tools are great. Actually used some of your tools, Ashley, in that, so thank you for that. That was on Kopangan. You were the queen of anger, and I learned so much from you in terms of how to work with anger. So I'm really grateful for that, and being able to share that with more people in my sessions, but also in workshops. So that workshop there, I taught them some of the tools that you taught us, and then someone came to me afterwards and were like, okay, this is great. I feel somehow more free now, but it's not really changing anything really, right? Like, if I get angry and then I go into my room and I punch a pillow and I push against the wall, or I do a silent scream, it's not really changing the situation. And I just like people who are listening to be very aware of this argument, which is just another thing this protector would say to protect you from going to the anger. Because it's not actually about like changing something in the first step, but it's more like about allowing this emotion, even in the first step, to come up, even if it's just 1% or 5% of that emotion, allowing it to come and inform you, because this emotion is here to give you an information, and maybe it's a boundary that's being crossed or whatever it is, but without that information you can't even make a free and clear decision. So it's one step ahead already, this protector, and it's like, but it won't change anything. Well, my recommendation there is to trust, and trust that this emotion is here to inform you, and once you let it in and you almost become whole and you have all emotions online, that then you have all the information that you need, because your emotions will tell you what to do. But when one emotion is not allowed, it's almost like there you create this blind spot, this shadow of like, okay, I have access to all these actions, these 3 or 4 actions are available right now to me, but this one that involves anger is not available to me right now. This one I can't do because I don't even see it, because I can't go there. So only clarity can only come after allowing all those emotions.
Yeah. And I really love, because the old context would be then, okay, anger is useless, or anger is unnecessary, anger
Exactly.
is a waste of time, anger doesn't bring about change. And through these, like, each time that emotion arises and you honor it and you give it some space, then you're essentially reprogramming how your brain perceives and how the judgment, the story that you hold about that emotion, how that's then showing up in your life. So it doesn't happen like just from one silent scream. No, it's like every time your body goes into an over feeling of one emotion, giving it the space, giving it like, okay, I'm showing you that you have value right now, emotion. I'm listening to you. I'm not judging you and pushing you down. And this is what I mean, I do this in the start of all of the anger workshops when I have a whole day. It's like, okay, what's the old view we have on this emotion? as women, as men, because also like we did this at the emotional alchemy retreat. The feeling of sadness has very different contexts for men and versus women.
Mm.
Like for men to be connecting into sadness, then there's this judgment of being weak or being a pussy or being like a wimp. Whereas for women, it's like, oh, I actually receive a lot of support if I'm sad. If I feel sad, if I cry, then people want to come and take care. But if I express anger, then it's more of an energy that pushes people away. So it causes disconnection. Versus for men, is seen as powerful, are seen as like manly if they're aggressive. So yeah, I love this practice of like looking at the old view, and it's like, well, what would the new one look like? How can we spin that in a way where it doesn't always have to be positive, but where it's at least constructive?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I love that you said it's a habit, because this is an essential part of it. That another thing that this protector will say is, well, yeah, but I did it once and it didn't really change much. So, okay, I'm going to stop now. And it's so tricky, this protector. It's so tricky because it really, really has only this one job of protecting you from that anger. So it will come up with all different kinds of tricky little things to say and sabotage your life and your system. So maybe you can also come up with some other things that you might have heard from your clients or from your own experience of like what these protectors usually say to prevent you from going to the anger, because I feel like this really helps if people hear that and they're like, oh yes, that's me, I believe that about anger, that's my old context about anger.
Yeah, I mean, you can interestingly catch the projections that you have also of other people expressing, even if it's not about yourself. I was once called a sadistic cheerleader by someone from one of the online anger release classes. I was like, some part of that is probably a little bit accurate.
So definitely, otherwise we wouldn't be laughing now.
Yeah, so judgment around it being like it being too much, of it being that people are going to feel dysregulated afterwards, that they're going to feel worse after, especially if people are coming from maybe already feeling burnt out or dysregulated, high cortisol levels. The putting the concern on someone else, like I'm very concerned for the other people in this room and how it's like, no, like let's bring this story and narrative back to yourself. Like it's not necessarily they can look after themselves or we can work on their process, but like don't know what word is that Angelo used to use, like scourging, when you defend someone else's honor but then you're just using it to bypass speaking your truth. People will say like, well, I don't want to bring up anger if I don't feel angry. Like, why would I want to dysregulate myself if it's not present? And I like to say, well, not just with anger, but with any emotion, you actually want to be able to invite it in, even in a playful manner, even in a way like an actor would, without it dysregulating your system. So sometimes in the workshops, people are like, well, I feel pretty green today. I don't want to go into anger. I'm like, well, then let's just have fun with it. If it's something that's not going to bother you, then you're just going to enjoy it and we'll have a fun workshop and it won't leave any residue behind. So there's definitely resistance to that. Physical resistance would be fear of losing their voice, fear of hurting themselves. There's a protector part that I think a lot of people feel like they have like a Jekyll and Hyde or like a Hulk inside of them, that suddenly they're going to do one pillow hit and they're going to like destroy a whole room. And I'm like, no, like actually in reality, if it hasn't yet happened, like if it hasn't burst out with you punching a drywall, or if you haven't ever like flipped out or been aggressive, it most likely would not be there. Like those people who need anger management are the ones that already are expressing those signs. Like it's very rare that if people flip out just suddenly for the first time in 45 years because they did a bit of anger work. No. Like, that's definitely there. It's kind of like when people are like, I don't want to do weight training at the gym because I'm going to look like a bodybuilder. I'm like, love, it requires serious commitment and effort to look like a bodybuilder. You're not just from doing 2 bicep curls going to suddenly have crazy big muscles.
I love that so much. That's a big one, actually, in my experience. This, and I call it thinking or speaking in extremes. And this is really a sign of some traumatic energy being there, some like distorted relationship to whatever you're talking about when you can only talk in extremes and you're missing the balance, because it's a great way to protect you from the anger, right? If you can only say either I'm 0% angry or I'm 100% angry, and both is actually unhealthy. So, okay, perfect. You've protected yourself from the anger because it's bad either way. So
Yeah.
you can already see how this is a great strategy. So whenever you catch yourself doing that, dive deeper.
Yeah. Have you had any resistance that people have said about anger that I didn't mention?
I was just thinking about myself, and I definitely saw myself in some of those, like what we just talked about. It's like, oh, but then I get super angry, and then everybody around me is gonna be hurt, or they're not gonna take me seriously in my anger. I think that happens a lot as well. It might be a new one
Mm.
that I've heard of, like, yeah, but people make fun of me when I get angry, because that
Hmm.
might be something. And this is also in my family, something that happened, of like my little brother being angry and my dad just being like, oh yeah, now you're really angry, right? Yeah, you go up to your room and lock yourself in the room. You're so angry. Yeah, yeah. And this is just like showing so clearly how this is the relationship he has to his own anger. And then other times there were outbursts of anger, of like he was dissatisfied with something that we did or so, and then it's like he got like a little bit aggressive, even not like he ever hit us or so, but touching us more roughly or so. And so these things that you experienced in your childhood will then be the excuses that you will use, and this is definitely the case for me as well.
Yeah, and I mean these are very valid as well. Like I remember certain examples could be like for women expressing anger, it's like seen as hysterical, it's seen as childish, it's seen as uncivilized, because that is the rhetoric that we're swimming against in society, and there are repercussions. Like even today, like the anger queen Ashley, I expressed like rightful disappointment and anger towards one of my parents for a misunderstanding, but like I thought they'd lost something very important to me from my childhood, which would have been not through bad intention, just through sheer negligence of like not paying attention. And I was feeling so angry and so sad. And I remember expressing this to my family, and I became the villain. I became the how dare you say this? You've hurt their feelings. You've made them feel really bad. Like I
Mm.
was like, wow. So I'm the one hurt, and now I have to take care of the emotional labor of like communicating the right and wrong of that to somebody else of why that impacted me.
Mm.
And it was very intense. And then trying to then take the emotional labor, I got accused of trying to therapize people, and I was like, cool. So I can't win. Like I'm not allowed to feel hurt, and then I tried to explain why I feel hurt, and then I get accused of trying to do therapy. So
Mm.
yeah, so that there's rightful reasons these protectors come online,
Yeah,
and
totally.
it's not
And
always easy.
yeah,
Like it's what also the
exactly.
therapist, your facilitator, therapist friends, like what the people who do hold space for us in our life, what they bring to create a space where this part can come up and let itself. Because sure as hell, like that wouldn't happen with my family right now. Maybe they change. So of course that part is going to come up if there's no safety or there's no permission for it to be received also.
Yes, totally. We're back at safety as one of the essential things of our
Yeah.
work.
Ding ding ding.
Ding, 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 safety.
We used to have like a safety sound effect.
Like a nice soothing sound. Like, yes, it's all about safety. If you remember one thing, it's all about safety, because when you're safe, you can be yourself. And when you can be yourself, it's easier to go through the layers of shame.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you become more of yourself. Because what shame really is, I wrote this in my journal this morning, is hiding something from yourself. You are yourself in your wholeness, and shame just hides a part of it, because this part of you is not allowed to be there. And in this case, the shame hides the anger, because it's not allowed to be a part of you. And yeah, I really think you just said it's not easy, but I think it must be the hardest thing in the world in healing. And this is how bypassing is created, even. It's not going to the emotions that you most repress. Basically, what your whole system is doing all the time is seeking safety. Your mind is seeking safety. The thoughts that you have, the planning, the things that, oh, I wish I had less intrusive thoughts about this, or I'd be less controlling, or whatever it is. Why are you doing all of this? Because you want safety. You're seeking safety. And why do you have to seek safety? Why aren't you just safe?
Mm.
Because you constantly need to be aware not to go to that repressed emotion. So all of this is actually just an extension of this repressed emotion. And what we want to do in this work is that you can feel safe being yourself with that emotion. And the moment you meet it, like we said in the beginning, with this new, almost like attitude of more of a presence and acceptance in safety, you are starting to do that. And it takes time, and it needs to become a habit, because for however old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you've practiced the opposite. You've been practicing, okay, I can go to sadness, yeah, pretty safe to a certain degree. I can go to a little bit of joy, fear, somehow okay, anger, no. Anger, like, no. So this is your default, this is your programming. So it will take a time to kind of like alchemize that and change that, but this is the journey.
And one thing I want to touch on, because we talked about also containment. So let's talk about the opposite of catharsis, because this is, I brought this into the class, and one of the students was like, wait, what? Sometimes we're not going to get our client to release. Like, why would that be the case? Like, what? Like, they really were mind blown. And so what I mean by containment, also for those of you who are new to working with other people, is that sometimes clever defense mechanisms in our mind and our body sometimes send us already into overexpression. Too much crying, like crying for ages, feeling angry for ages, letting like really an emotion that starts looping, or just like a continued experience of an emotion that seems to have no end, like bottomless pit of crying, of tears, of sadness. And that it's actually quite easy sometimes to see when people are in overexpression. And actually, sometimes that's happening as a way to avoid touching on something more vulnerable or more real or more truthful underneath the surface. So, for example, anger is an easy one to touch on. Like, you see someone who's very, very angry in expression, like volatile, aggressive. Maybe an easier analogy of this would actually be if you look at videos of rescue dogs that have been treated really badly and they're in the dog shelter, and someone tries to come into their cage and they're snarling and growling and showing a lot of aggression because there's actually a lot of fear and there's actually a lot of mistrust and not safety. And then you see slowly the handler of the shelter over a time lapse of maybe like an hour, where like every few minutes they moved slightly closer, like another centimeter closer, and just sit there and just be patient. And the dog is still growling and still showing off its teeth and moving a bit closer. And actually underneath that is that a desire for that creature, that animal, to feel safe and to feel love and to not feel this state of fear and aggression that's showing up. And this also happens when I see people who are like overtly angry. Like, I remember one time in New York being in the gym, and there was a woman who had been like harassed by a man in the gym, and she was in the changing room and she was on the phone to someone and like really angry, loud. And I could see the ripple effect of all the other women in the changing room, like all kind of half dressed or whatever, but like they all moved away, because it is an emotion that does send people away because it can be scary. And I was listening in and I could hear, but I could tell in the resonance that this woman was actually just like wanted to cry, that she was really stressed and her body, her nervous system didn't have the space. So it was in anger. And I remember going up to her and just asking, like, is everything okay? Like, do you want to, like, and we sat down and talked for a moment. And when I see a lot of aggressive people, I could feel like actually there's like a little boy or a little girl there that just needs someone to hold them. And usually then there's some vulnerability underneath that. Like, I'm scared right now. I feel so violated right now. Like, oh, that was horrible. Like, then the truth can come through of what's underneath. So that in sessions, we reach that through sometimes encouraging containment, which would mean if there's a lot of sounds coming, inviting them to hold their breath for a second, to, amazing, you've come in contact with this life force energy right now. Don't waste it. Don't give it to the room. Like, contain this. Sometimes there's topics of worthiness, like I don't actually feel worthy, or like I deserve to have all this joy inside my body, or this life force, or this tingling, or this pleasant feeling. And so they want to breathe it out and to sigh it out and to get rid of it. And last thing on this, because I know I have an example where we did this together, but even the emotional release breath that we take, and this is, even for us as teachers, like still in some form, we are bypassing from holding the intensity of an experience sometimes. Like someone shares something very beautiful, and I notice that I'm really touched and I feel sadness arising in my body. But because I'm also holding space for a group, or because I don't want to go into that sadness right now, what do? I breathe it out. I let it go. I release. As opposed to like, what would happen if I had the safety or the time to sit with that feeling that's just come up? What is it touching? What is it moving inside of me? What wants to happen there? So yeah, it was really nice to have that reflection with the students. Like, hey, even I need to contain more sometimes. Like, I'm pretty expressive in my sessions. That was always a joke in my trainings. Like, no problem with Ashley yelling or crying or like having some big release. And I also got encouraged often to contain, to like, I feel energy in my body, not shake it off, like with ADHD, with my foot tapping, or to send the energy outwards. What would happen if I would hold it? And often that comes an insight. Yeah, I want to hear from you, Jannick, because we talked about this example, but it's nice
Yeah.
with this to contain this topic.
Yeah, really nicely explained, actually. A really important aspect of being able to be with a lot of energy in your body. Like, can you be with this and this life force energy, this arousal? It's not necessarily something to get rid of, but something that wants to be expressed. So there, to me, there's a huge difference between expression coming from this energy, that might be through words or through movement. It's almost like this, just like moving inside of you and letting it move inside of you, whatever it is. And you can also be put into your creative projects or whatever, taking action. And releasing of like, oh, this is too much, I want to like get rid of it. So I can sometimes I can scream because it's an expression of what I feel, deep fear or so, I scream, or I can scream because I want to get rid of it. And these are two very different things. In one example, I don't have resistance to it. I'm actually like really close to it and very intimate with it and allow it to move through me. In the other example, I am in resistance to it, so I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was also the case when I did the emotional release training in Turkey about 2 years ago, I think. And I was there on the desk, and you were there giving me a session, and not on the desk, on the table. my table in front of me is a desk, so that might have been why my brain just interchanged those two.
It's like ultimate weird secretary fantasy going on there.
Exactly. We did not do that. It was in a forest. Other people were there. We had our clothes on. And I was laying on the table, and I went into this angry state of like, yeah, and then power came, and I was like, I'm so powerful. Yes, I'm so powerful. And you had seen me do that in one or two sessions, probably 2 or 3 sessions before that. So you're like, okay, so what's underneath that? Can you contain that? What's underneath that? And usually it's almost like there's like layers of emotions. And in one session, it can be very vulnerable to access this power. And it was for me. But then after 2 or 3 sessions, I was looping. So it was not new. It was not vulnerable anymore to go there. It was default. So with that question that you asked, I went into deep sadness and grief again afterwards. And that could have only come through this containment, through this new perspective that you brought in that moment of like, oh yes, right now I'm defaulting, I'm not in touch with myself anymore. This doesn't feel like a new layer of vulnerability and realness. This is just a repetition, and by now it feels safe. By now it feels safe to be the powerful one. 3 days ago it didn't. it didn't at all. It was like completely new, and I was like, holy, this is scary. Am I really powerful? Oh yes, I am. but now no, it's going back to it. And yeah, that's why this work is also always full of surprises. And it's always new, and you are almost like being very creative with your client. Is creative, you're creative, together you build this unit that is creative together, and just exploring what wants to come to the surface here.
Yeah, like also being kind of a harsh mirror sometimes. Like
True.
I probably was because we're friends by the time that training started. Like when there's really this level of like not camaraderie, but just like comfort between. I feel like I genuinely said something like, Jannick, I'm kind of bored. Like I've seen this twice already.
Yeah.
And someone like, you can't say that to a client, but I have said that. If it's somebody that like I know could receive it and they know that I'll be honest and that I only say things, I don't say things to be a sadistic cheerleader. I say them because I sense potential and I sense that there might need to be a trigger that needs to be scratched a bit to see like what's there. So it's like, yeah, like Jannick, I've seen this already. Like what? Like it's getting a bit boring. Like my resonance is feeling a bit flat here. Like what's really going on? Like I want to know what's going on deeper. And those sorts of prompts are really beautiful to bring in with clients when it feels like the next layer of the onion wants to come up as well.
Yeah, which is one of the most beautiful things of this work is it's human to human. It's not like a system to a human, and this other, therapist is just there to give you the system as if it was an AI or something and ask the perfect questions. No, it's human to human. You can use resonance. You can use your ego, so to say, as a tool, not as a master, but as a tool, as a servant to help you in the session. And when your ego feels boredom, there's probably a reason why. Or you can even go further. If your ego feels like, well, I want to punch my client in the face right now.
Been there.
There's a reason for it. And you don't have to punch them in the face, but you can use that information and be like, maybe they are playing weak right now. Maybe they are not in their power. So the perpetrator in me is almost like triggered and coming up right now because they are going so much into their victimhood.
Yeah.
And then you can get them out of there. Because your ego is not your master, but it's a tool showing you right now something's off.
Yeah, I love that example because it's so easy to get attached to the shaming as a facilitator. Then like, oh my gosh, I feel attraction or I feel disgust or I feel judgment towards my client. I'm supposed to be in total non-judgmental holding space. It's like, no, like that is just feeding you direct information to see where you can go a bit deeper. And about an hour before we hopped on this podcast, I watched a reel from Dr. G explaining how to feel resonance when you listen to someone sharing and that they're not authentic or they're not being real. How to he was like, listen to this interaction and see where in your body you notice where. And for me, it was like direct solar plexus and disgust response of like two people being very fake with each other. Like, hi, oh my gosh, how are yeah. I'm good. Yeah, it was a very fake. It was with Meghan Markle and an interviewer, and there was like you could feel there's anger and like not authentic communication happening. So again, for yourself, even if you're not working with clients and you're listening, you can like we've talked about resonance, but for all of you, it might show up a bit differently of different areas of the body where you like. I say this bullshit detector when I listen to Jannick, I could just feel it in my solar plexus, like something. It's like, something's off here, and I don't feel peaceful listening to this. I don't feel like in full, yeah, wow, what amazing, beautiful release that's happening. And it feels so pure and it feels so close to your soul. And when then the sadness did come after that, I was like, I feel it now.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, just for everybody listening, don't punch your client in the face. You can use it. That's why it's so important to do your own work. We always advertise for that. It's like, go
don't
deep.
Sue us.
Don't sue us, exactly. Do your inner work, meet your bullshit, and then it loses its grip and its power over you, and then you can use it. So you are in control, you are in presence with whatever comes up and with that intuition, and you can use it as a tool, and you don't have to just react to it. You can respond to the things that come up in the session, and then they are really powerful tools, because you are not meant to be this, like Ashley said, this perfect feelingless being that just sits there and is in total, how is that called, equality? No, like non-judgment, non-interference,
This omnipresent godlike energy.
Yeah. I mean,
feeling that enlightened.
Exactly, this enlightened being, and you are that, and at the same time things will come up and your ego is there, and so it's about
you're still in a 3D body, in a human body with senses and with energy moving through it. And of course we want to get to enlightenment, but then we probably won't have relationships in the way we know them and attachments as the way we know them.
Exactly. So it's about the balance and bringing in both of those, the godly aspect of you and the humanly aspect, and then you can meet each other there on the desk. Yeah. Thank you for that episode, Ash. That was a lot of fun,
Yeah,
and I
likewise.
hope you guys learned something. If you're interested in our training, you will find all the information and the link to our Telegram group down below. The next round starts in January
2026. Depending on
2026.
which year you're listening to this podcast.
Exactly. And we are very excited. First seats filling up already. And we will have some wonderful webinars and online workshops coming up that you can join for free. So keep an eye on that in the Telegram
and
group.
the level 2. So
yes,
yeah, we will have in-person trainings that you have to join the first one, but if you're thinking like, oh, I want to go to this training that Jannick went to and experience these things, you want to have Ashley coming and calling your bullshit in person, then that's then that's also part
Believe
of
me, you
the
want that.
trainings. Yeah, you do. You want the sadistic cheerleader telling you when you're not being in resonance. So yeah, this will all be coming out in the next weeks as well. But yeah, thank you for being here. Jannick and I are both in separate cities going to different music events now. So I wish you fun at your kirtan, Jannick.
Thank you. Have fun on your party.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.